a question I get asked, and the first thing I'll say, and I might break hearts, is there's no magic. So this, can I just speak truthfully? I was trying to find a gentle way to say it, but the kizungu imepotea. So I think I have to say it direct and say, no one is coming to save you. Lesson number one. And I'll tell you why. And I'm speaking from such a space of experience, like I've been there. You know, I remember how it felt, and I've been there, guys. Let me tell you, that's why you want them to, wherever you are in business, and think none of us had to go through the fire. Are you all with me? In fact, nowadays I call it the rite of passage. I've come to see it as a test. I've come to see it as there's a space you have to be taken that's so difficult, and that's the space where you will be honed for the place that you need to go. It's a test, but most of us don't see it that way. And I remember even me feeling like, oh, there's a point, you're like, no one cares, no one, that mindset of like, why aren't people seeing how important this business is? Do they know what I'm capable of? As entrepreneurs, I think our confidence is tested so much because you've built something, you love it, you're proud of it, and you wish the whole world could see what you're seeing, right? But unfortunately, it's not always, and that's what happens with financing. So why I've said no one is coming to save you, it sounds a bit harsh, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from. For myself, that was the turning point. It's like one day it clicked. That statement clicked for haya. Niwewe kwanza. If you don't prove this thing first, if you don't stand up by yourself first, the next step is not going to be possible. And it's difficult. Are you all with me? It is very difficult. So I financed Zydii with everything I had. And when I say everything, you guys know the definition of faith. I didn't leave, we are very, just in case. Let me just, have a backup. So I was one of those crazy people who, and by the time I started Zydii, like I said, my previous company had been doing well. So I had managed to generate some income. I was on some great consultancy retainers, So financially, it's a space where you can do more. I had saved, for an entrepreneur point of view, and I saved. You pay people and suppliers, and then pay yourself even, it's very difficult. So I had saved, I felt like I could now start to build some sort of financial strength. And then I go to start Zydii and realize my upfront investment, even to develop the platform and get the company up and going, was about $20,000. At that time it was 100, which is a good thing, thinking about where the dollar is now. But we would say that's about how much? 2 million? Yeah. Like just, as in, ata ujanini, ujafungua mlango, hauna customer, just to, and that's how ambitious this product was. And I had the option to do it simple. But what have you guys learned from my story? Do you think I would do it simple? No. Because every step I'd gone through in my career, in my journey, was all about the step of faith. Listen to the purpose, listen to your vision, all where God wants you to go. So I knew that Zydii could not be this simple website. In fact, I looked at a company called Udemy. Have you all heard of Udemy? It's a huge company in the US. Imagine I looked at Udemy and told myself, if Zydii doesn't look like Udemy, I won't do this thing. Because why should I be in Africa with a substandard looking, unaenda Udemy, it looks like this, ukuje hii Africa, inakaa aje? Why do we feel that this is the way it has to be? I had to believe in myself, and it was tough. And I told myself, at a minimum, with my tech understanding, I want a platform that at least meets that standard, because that's what people have been doing, and that's what I want to do for the market. So all my income, all my, even that, everything went into starting Zydii. It was extremely hard. I don't even have the words to tell. You guys can imagine. You've gone from even being at least financially okay to hata sahi unaanza kushibota parentaje because you've sunk everything into building the new business. So no one comes to save you. So with financing, I think it's about building a solid enough foundation in your business that others can see the potential. So that's what I had to do. So launch the platform, I got customers, revenue. If something is not generating revenue, people, I'm sorry to say, most guys will look at you like, ukoshoe ni biashara, ama ni trust, ama ni... Do you all know what I'm talking about? And whether there's nothing wrong with that, but this is just what it is. A business has to generate revenue. It has to have customers. So those basics have to be there before you even talk about financing. And that's where most of us struggle. You have to hustle, you have to find a way to do it, but modern day I find there are so many tools and ways that you can actually achieve what we call minimum viable product and initial traction, right? So use technology. Technology now was my game changer as well. Tools which we use for project management, You know, how we track the finances, how we get the customers. The first, who talked about ads? You know those ads? The first ads Zydii did, I did myself. I taught myself Google AdWords and set up the ads myself. Imagine myself, yeah, myself. People in business understand what I'm saying. You can't even employ. Sheila was not anywhere near that time. It was Mimi and maybe a co-founder. You're doing like 6 jobs at the same time. We all know that, right? So nobody gets to skip that step. It is a rite of passage. It will be hard, it is difficult, you will be tested, you will try, you will fail, but the idea is to cross over to the other side where you have what we call a repeatable, scalable business model, right? So you can see there's a solid business, it can generate repeat revenue, it's not a fluke. Are you all with me? You have consistent customers so that now you're able to talk about financing. Now, the first investor I got, when it comes to fundraising, your questions are a whole class. But the quick summary is fundraising is like sales. It's like sales. You have to approach it that way. I went in, I had to have an Excel sheet, 100 investors, reach out to them, I had to do a pitch deck, and most of these things I'm telling you, I learned again. Background, baptism by fire. There was no class. Nowadays, I'm grateful I actually speak a lot about this. Maybe we can do a separate webinar for anyone who wants to fundraise, because I have the whole story, because I went through it. But I realized there are no resources. Like, I learned it myself, I taught myself, but it took me a long time. So my first round, 2019, from Keppel Ventures, I raised $50,000 on a pre-seed. Pre-seed means kuna potential, but we are not there. So you even learn how to name. You know how you hear rounds being named for what you're trying to do. So pre-seed is where you're telling an investor, the dream, give me money, I'll show you where we are going. That's pre-seed. So I raised $50,000 in 2019, and then kept going with that. COVID happened, by the way, story for another day. It flipped things for me in a different direction. We pivoted the business, and then my next financing was now my next, I call it pre-seed again, pre-seed 2. But there I was just being, I had become a veteran in the EV. There's a smart reason why I did that, pre-seed 2, but a larger round, which I closed last year. Maybe see me after class for the amount. But good enough that we have Sheila here. T-shirt, look, a branding coming here, some to roll ups, you know. Yeah, it's being able to sustain us to do much bigger. The question about Africa. So when you launch a technology company, I usually say technology is an enabler. It's an enabler. By the way, all of us can have tech companies in this room. Can I just challenge you guys? Yeah, and you should, because where we are in 2023, if you're not leveraging technology, you will be left behind. So whatever business you're running, you must have tech embedded, even if it's to make your processes more efficient. So I meet people and they say they are not tech, and I tell them, how are you not tech? You know, tech doesn't mean your core product is technology. It means you're leveraging technology. Find a way. Now, when you're leveraging technology, you're able to scale. So remember that thing I said about God telling me vision has to be bigger? With a company like Zydii, when we first launched it, the greatest surprise for me was to see people from Ghana buying courses on Zydii. Like, just automatically. Back I'm like, pani wali tujua wapi. But then, isn't that the beauty of tech? So my model with Zydii is very intentional the way it is. It's fully digital, because the idea is to have anyone, anywhere in Africa, actually anywhere in the world, able to come and utilize the service. When you can do that, it means my goal is 5 million, 10 million. There's no limit to the number of people we can onboard to the platform without depending on ourselves because of the technology. Yeah, so Africa just means, and when you're venture funded, last point about fundraising and investors, why they like technology companies is because the potential is in the scale. It's in the questions I would have to answer about scalability. Can you scale? Can you be in Nigeria, South Africa? Last point, Uber Kenya was my client. So I worked with Uber Kenya. We've skilled the 5,000 drivers on UberX. And we did that up to 2020. Now we are going into South Africa with Uber South Africa. So that's something that we are working on. So they are now moving us. So in South Africa, we are going to skill 10,000 drivers. If Zydii wasn't set up the way it was, I wouldn't be able to do that. Just yesterday, Friday, I was on a call with them where I was showing them how content we did for Kenyan drivers, with a bit of AI, we've been able to convert it to have a South African accent and to sound like South African, so it works for their market. And then someone on the call who was from Nigeria tells me, I need you to do the same for Nigeria. So then we might be going to West Africa as well, you see. So you see my point, you're always prepared for where you need to go, but technology helps you scale, and you should be thinking that big, actually.